I called it genocide because it's become clearer and clearer that Putin is just trying to wipe out the idea of even being able to be a Ukrainian.
President Biden is willing to say the Russians are committing genocide in Ukraine, but he won't say his goal there is to defeat Russia or Vladimir Putin. In fact, from the start of this conflict, it has been a NATO rule of thumb not to provoke Putin.
Ukrainians are not afraid, and I want our partners not to be afraid either. If they set aside fears of escalating, of provoking Putin, that war will be lost, and they will themselves become the next victim of the Russian aggression.
As a result of the Allies' lack of clarity in their objective, the Ukrainians' valiant fight has had to operate in a policy twilight zone between losing and winning.
Every day of consideration in Pentagon or elsewhere is a day when we lose soldiers, when we lose civilians, when more atrocities occur in Ukraine, because someone somewhere is thinking.
Russia is now exploiting this ambivalence, warning the United States to stop sending Ukraine advanced systems or there will be what they call unpredictable consequences. In other words, let us win.
We got to look not only to the next few days, but even to the month of June, which is a big turning point when the fields get dry enough that tanks and supply vehicles can drive across them in those big wide open wheat fields of eastern Ukraine.
Mr. Biden's offhanded remark that the Putin invasion is a genocide against Ukrainians triggered speculation about the president's reason for invoking it.
He's the president of the United States and the leader of the free world, and he is allowed to make his views known at any point he would like.
So it was not scripted then, it wasn't pre-planned?
Again, I think we shouldn't misunderstand who he is and where he stands in the totem pole, which is at the top.
One interpretation is that the random reference to genocide was meant to increase pressure on nations sitting on the sidelines. French President Emmanuel Macron instantly worried that invoking genocide risked what he called an escalation of words. In other words, don't provoke Putin. Still, Mr. Macron indirectly raised the right question. Where exactly are we going in Ukraine?
This war could continue for a long time, but the United States will continue to stand with Ukraine and the Ukrainian people in the fight for freedom.
Diplomatic ambiguity has its uses, and it's possible that with its commitment to ship $800 billion of sophisticated military equipment to Ukraine, the U.S. goal has indeed become to help it win without publicly rubbing defeat in Mr. Putin's face.
We tailored this list specifically to meet the needs that they have asked for with respect to what's going on in eastern Ukraine.
What's still not clear is whether Mr. Biden and NATO recognize the unprecedented forces they have put in motion. Ukraine's war is being described as the biggest military event in Europe since World War II.
Who decides if the president goes to Ukraine or not?
In what way?
He had said when he was in Poland that he expressed interest in going to Ukraine, but they wouldn't let me. So I'm wondering who advised.
I'm not going to get into private considerations internally on that front.
A more relevant contextual setting is that this is the first war being fought inside the fully developed world of social media. And as of 2 months ago, millions of multi-platform followers are fighting globally for Ukraine, as Russia regroups for a different kind of battle.
They regroup for a Second World War style battle with thousands of tanks, heavy armored vehicles, all kinds of armor, helicopters, plane, front lines, and this is why it will be insufficient to have javelins to defeat them in the east. This is why we are yelling at every corner about the need to send Ukraine heavy weapons as soon as possible.
The key word here is credibility. Lose Ukraine after all this, and the credibility of the United States and NATO will be damaged for years. So while the Biden administration rejects the suggestion that it's leading from behind so as not to provoke Putin,
the most important thing the United States has done and continues to do is lead the entire global coalition in standing up against Russia.
The moment has come for the U.S. president to tell the American people, we're in this thing to win.